How's it going? Wesley from Mere Pursuit here. We're going to be doing a solo how to play video for the market plus the upgrades. It's worth noting that we're going to do a full how-to on this because it's different enough from the original A Market, a Pocket game, that it deserves that. One of the biggest differences is in the Market, a Pocket game, it was very kind of press your luck oriented based on knowing the deck. In the Upgrades and Market expansion, it's very much based on player agency and decision making. That press your luck mechanic does still exist to some minor effect, not so great as before, but then you have to define luck, which is merely the perception of randomness. Let's look at the win conditions. In the original Market, a Pocket game, the goal was 15 hope. Now we're talking about 50 hope or 15 power for the initial win condition. There is a learning curve there. Some people figure it out in 1 or 2 tries. Others, it might take 7 or 8 playthroughs before they figure it out, but the game moves quickly. So the pursuit of excellence there is 75 hope or 25 power. The goal is a little bit higher. There is another learning curve to achieve that, a deeper level of strategy. And then obviously there's an even deeper level of strategy to reach that intense pursuit of ancient mysteries there for 100 plus hope or 35 plus power. I have reached 107 at one point with a shuffled deck and cards that you couldn't see. But, you know, I've definitely broken the 100 goal more than once. That initial win condition, once you know the game, you know, you can break that 90 to 95% of the time. To get that pursuit of excellence, you can probably do that 75 to 85% of the time. And then for the intense pursuit of ancient mysteries, once you actually know the solution to the puzzle, you can do that probably 33 to 38% of the time. And those are kind of rough numbers. They're not specific by any stretch of the imagination. All right, let's look at the basic setup of the game. Over here, you have your basic deck of market cards. It's your permanent resources there. There's about 12 of them in the deck. Then down right in front of you, you have your basic building cards. You have your 3 main building cards there from the original Market, a Pocket game: Compost, Farm, Synthetic Light. On the right, you have your Hardfire, Forge. They have numbers around them, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They all have 0 at the top currently to show that you have 0 of each resource type there. And basically, as you're working with these cards and you're gaining resources, we're just going to rotate the cards, right? So now you have 1, now you have 2, now you have 3. Then you rotate them back down when you go to spend those temporary resources. Hardfire works a little bit different, and we'll chat more about that in a minute, but this doesn't work like the multiplayer. You can't just, gain resources whenever you feel like it, any turn, because there is really no like trading of turns, right? Because there's no other player. So this game plays a little bit different, but we'll come back to that. So let's look at the rest of the setup here and what we've got going on. So like I said, we got this market deck over here. There's 12 cards in it. Let's look at the anatomy of one of these cards. The top left corner, you have Hope. In the middle of the card, you have your main image. That is the type of resource that card represents. Down at the bottom, you have your cost and value, which really is determinative of how much it costs to buy the card if you want to buy it to your play area as a permanent resource. I talked to you about the temporary resources on the buildings. This would serve as a permanent resource, kind of like in Splendor if you've played that. If you haven't, essentially it counts as like a discount toward all future purchases, right? You don't get rid of the card when you spend this one, right? So it's worth 1 synthetic light. If you choose to take it to your hand instead of buying it from the market, you can then sell it from your hand to the discard. Then it's no longer yours, and you essentially get those resources at the bottom, and we'll look at that again in a minute here. To continue on with setup, let's look at the last 4 items here. We got 4 decks around the middle, 4 different resource types. In the top right hand corner, there's iconography on each. This one has 2 sticks. It's an accelerator and a handbrake. Right, and then over here on the right one, we have a cane, and then the bottom left is a cog, and then we have a scarf on the bottom right. All the cards in each deck, there's 3 of them, should have the same icon in the top right hand corner, and the images are going to be somewhat related in theming. So notice these 3 all have those 2 sticks there. Also, you'll notice right below the iconography are going to be some Roman numerals. That represents the level of the card. That was a level 3, this is a level 2, this is a level 1. And so that's the version of that card. You're going to put the level 3 on the bottom, level 2 on top of that, and the level 1 on the very tip top. When you go to buy from these decks, you can only buy the card that is on top of the deck itself. All right, let's look at what you can do on your turn. So in the original Market a Pocket game, you'd take a card and then without looking at it, you had to decide whether you're going to flip it and put it in your hand or flip it and put it into the market. If you put it into your hand, you could then sell it for the resources on the bottom of the card by putting it into the discard pile off to the side somewhere, and you would essentially gain those resources down there on those buildings. If you chose to put it into the market, you could buy it from the market and put it down there below your buildings as a permanent resource of that type that it's matching the building for. Okay. All right, and the upgrades, though, we're going to flip it and take a look at it before we decide whether to put it in the market or into our hand. Okay. And the market and our hands simply count as kind of a holding pattern. So we look at this and it's 1 hope and the cost is 2 compost, 0 fiddleheads, 0 light. It counts as a permanent fiddlehead. And we have to decide what we want to do with this card. Do we put it in the market? Do we put it in our hand? Do I want to be able to sell it for those resources later, or do I want to be able to buy this card and let it count as a permanent resource of some kind? Right, so in this case, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we're just gonna put it into the market itself. And I'm not gonna teach strategy in this video. It'd be really easy to talk about strategy. I'm just gonna kind of display all the rules, and so I may or may not make good decisions here. But you'll notice like the cost on that card. It requires a cost of 2 compost to buy it, and if I had that 2 compost, right, I could spend the 2 compost, turn the building a couple times, bring the card down right below the matching symbol, right, so there's the same symbol that's on the card itself, so it goes under there. If you you can look at the symbols, you can look at the colors, kind of whatever approach you want, right. And so if I went to spend these fiddleheads, that card down underneath, that permanent resource, would count as 1 of that. So in that case, I could have had 1. I could have up to 4 total, right? But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it up there in the market for now because I can't afford it yet. So let's flip another card, see what we got. We're going to shuffle first. All right, so we've got this compost here, 3, 3, and 3. And just to kind of teach the basics of the game, I think we'll take this one to our hand probably. And then what we'll do from our hand is we'll sell this card. Even though it's 4 hope, that's 4 hope we won't be able to get later because we're not buying the card from the market. We're selling it from our hand instead. That'll be okay because now I can get 3 of each of those types of resources down at the bottom when I sell this card. So I'll throw it into kind of a pile off to the side. And I'm going to rotate all 3 of my buildings up to 3. And you'll notice that these cards, they don't have hard fire on them. So I can't, that's not how you gain hard fire, right? So to gain hard fire is going to function a little bit differently than the other 3 buildings. Essentially, you can trade for hard fire kind of at any point after you've decided where you're going to put a card and flip, if you flip a card and then decide where to put it. So I can trade compost, light, fiddleheads, whatever for hard fire up to 3. Just as I go. What I can't do is I can't trade backwards, right? I can't trade hard fire for those resources. And I can't really trade them for each other either, right? So the good news is now that I have enough compost to buy that card, right? Because I sold the other one. So bring it down here, I'll spend my 2 compost and I buy that fiddlehead, which now means that I essentially have 1 compost and 4 fiddleheads and 3 light there, right? Which will help. Alright, so we're going to take our next turn. We'll take a card off the top of the deck here, decide what to do with it. We'll flip it, take a look. I think we'll put it in the market. This one's going to be 0, 0, 1, 1 light. Easy buy since I have the light already. Spend the light, put it down there. Now I have 5 fiddleheads, right? 1 compost, and 2 light. Let's see what it would take to get an upgrade here. So we've got the 5 fiddleheads. This one looks like a good one because it requires a higher amount of fiddleheads than it does the other 2 resources, the compost or the light. 4 fiddleheads, 2 light, 2 compost, 1 hard fire, right? So let's start aiming to try to see what we can do to get that, and mostly just to teach you the rules of how upgrades work, right? So we'll flip a card, take a look. In this case, I think we're going to take this one to our hand, and just go ahead and get those resources off of it. It's 1 and 1 for a compost and fiddlehead to help us aim toward our goal. But we're going to need some hard fire here to buy that upgrade. So let's trade out 1 fiddlehead for 1 hard fire. And then we'll sell the card. We'll get 1 compost and 1 fiddlehead off of it. which brings us up to the resources that we need. We're at 2, 5, 2, and 1. The card is a 2, 4, 2, and 1. So I think we'll go ahead purchase it. It's worth 5 power and 3, or 5 hope and 3 power. So it's a pretty easy sell. So we'll spend down our resources. Notice, we do this to the 2 permanent resources there, and then just spend down the fiddleheads twice. We pay out everything else in order to make sure we get the card. All right, so I think we're gonna move on, take a look at our next card, see what we got here. We've got this light here. We could put it in the market, but I think we're just gonna take it to our hand and kind of see if it comes in handy a little bit later. Pun intended. We'll flip out this fiddlehead here, and I think we'll throw this one into the market itself. Flip another card, got a compost here, throw that in the market. Flip out another one, and really I'm fishing for resources at this point, right? So this one's worth 335. That's a good one. So we're gonna sell that thing. Max out our resources at 3 each. If I'd been particularly savvy, I might have traded out that last fiddlehead for a hardfire, but I'd already flipped the card before that. So I'm maxed out, and I'm gonna make some decisions, and I have to decide what's next. I really kind of want to get this upgrade so I can kind of show you guys what's going on. But the upgrade is going to require some hardfire that I don't have yet. So let's see what happens next. Let's trade out our light for some hardfire first. We'll flip a card, see if we can. Oh, hey, look at that. That was convenient. Yes, I did shuffle before this video. Or at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to sell all 3 of those light after taking it to my hand. Now I'm maxed out on all my resources. I can buy this upgrade now, right? It's a 2, 3, 3, 3. Throw that down there with the other one. So now, and I have to spend the resources, obviously. Again, those 2 permanent resources, create a discount essentially. So now I've got both of these. I've got both the level 1 and the level 2 of this kind of robotic menagerie, if you will. But there's another way to do this. So let's kind of reset our situation here where we're maxed out. And this creates kind of the last kind of key mechanic here of what's going on. Essentially what I can do is I can take the level 1 and I can discard it to count toward the cost, right? So there's my cog level 1. I'm gonna level it up to cog level 2, throw it into an upgrades discard pile, which is different from the permanent resource discard pile. Essentially what that's going to do is it's going to let me discard the level 1 to upgrade to the level 2. I will get to essentially discount the cost by canceling out the entire cost of one entire type of resource. In this case, I'm going to cancel out the cost of the compost to pay for this hand. Right, so I don't pay for the compost. I used the level 1 to pay for it. I still have to pay the resources for the other ones, right? So I'll do that. It's worth noting that you can only level up from a level 1 to a level 2, or you can level up from a level 2 to a level 3. You can never level up from a level 1 directly to a level 3. Okay. So there we go. Now I've got my level 2. So I've shown you how to buy an upgrade card. I've shown you how to upgrade an upgrade card. I could always go back and buy that upgrade again from the top of the discard pile. As long as I'm buying from the top of that upgrades discard pile, I can. You can't do that with the permanent resources and their discard, but you can with the upgrades. And so there may come a time where you want to buy a card off the top, and you may. I want to reiterate before finishing this video that this is not a strategy video. It's just a how to play video. Strategy is left to you. Because it is a puzzle. Interesting points, you can only have up to 3 cards there in the market, and you can only have up to 3 cards in your hand. If you need to, put another card in the market, you have to discard 1 from the market into the discard pile, or the same with your hand, essentially, right? If you need that extra room, it is allowed. So that's the video. That's how you play the solo mode. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm a pretty approachable person, right? Hope you have a great day and enjoy.